told you I do this shit for Vegas. About to shut the world down. World domination. World ain't ready for the town. We are an abomination.
What's going on, people? We are back at it again with the High Bud Tenders podcast. It is me, Jarrell, and you know I got my dog, Rocky. What's happening?
Now, dude, it's a wonderful day today. We had some really great days in Vegas. The dispensary life is like booming for me. How's it going for you over there?
Oh, man, just living the dream. Can't
Yep.
complain at all. Yeah, it's been smooth.
Yeah. Yes. So people, if you're out there and you're wondering what you're going to do for a vacation, you're coming to Vegas and you're going to check us out. Hi, Bud Tenders. But let's talk about the best thing in Vegas and what's going on today. I am super excited to have our guest on because I've utilized their products for a very long time. And let me tell you, I was super excited when I spoke to George and the crew, and they were like, hey, let's bring on Dynavap. George, welcome. This is George from Dynavap. Welcome, my friend. Thank you for coming on to the show.
Well, thank you for having me, Rocky. Jarrell, this is super exciting for me. Really happy to be here and to share our cute little devices with your audience.
Awesome. So I'm going to tell you, I'm super excited. I've been using it for a while. I was always looking for an alternate means to smoke cannabis all the time. Because, I always smoke joints, and sometimes you want to lay off combustion for a bit and you want to do something different, right? So you can either get a real bulky device to smoke your flower out of, or you can get a Dynavap. So explain that to our audience.
All right. So we make what we call little tiny devices. Sometimes we call them thermal extraction devices. Sometimes we call them vap caps. Some people call them miniature vaporizers. They look like this. It's a small, I think one of the most compact devices on the market that you can get that's actually a true vaporizer. And it's a true vaporizer in the sense that we've done something a little bit different that I don't think anyone else has really done in our industry yet, where we've separated the energy source and the control from the actual extraction chamber on our device. So you take a battery powered vaporizer, for example. It's got a battery and it's got some temperature sensing circuitry in there to control how hot your oven's getting, and all that stuff needs to work perfectly in concert, and you've only got as much adjustment as is programmed into the device. Our device, on the other hand, is a little bit different in terms of it's got this nifty little temperature indicating cap on the end that will click when it hits the right temperature, so that you know that your herb is perfectly roasted and not burned. I can kind of give you a quick demonstration, kind of show you how it goes. I use typically a lighter, but you don't have to.
Right.
And it's as simple as just heating it up on the side like this, and rolling it a little bit for even heat. And the cap is going to click when it hits vaporizing temperature, just like that.
Just heard that.
And it'll stay at temperature for typically for about 30 seconds or so, depending on how windy it is, how cold it is, how hard you're hitting on it, etc. And also, to a limited degree, where you heat on the cap. Because although the cap clicks at about the same temperature, the temperature of your extraction chamber varies a little bit depending on where you heat on the cap. Okay, you heat the tip for taste, you heat the base to go to space, right?
Gotcha. I didn't even know that either.
And
So
there's
that's
our
something
reset
new.
click. So we now know that the cap is cooled off, so I can basically touch it, right? It's still hot,
Yeah.
but it's not like, ouch, burn you hot. Okay, so it's not comfortable to hold, but it's not dangerous. So now I can take this cap off, and I can pull the tip off. It's just held on with high temperature O-rings. I can pop the condenser out like this with the digger outer, which is one of my favorite little parts on the cap, just to kind of show you, what's involved in this device.
So there's no electric
angle.
pieces in there. It's pure metal
Yep.
and fire with
Yes.
some O-rings.
Yep, a couple high temperature
Simple.
O-rings, and again our temperature indicating cap, which is super nice. And it's just that simple. So it makes for a very durable device.
Now it does have a couple of air holes on the side. Is that like the
Yes.
carb?
So you could think about it that way, but I think about it more as an airport in the regards that if you notice there's an inner tube that runs the entire length inside of here. It actually goes just slightly inside of the tip here. And so when you draw on this and you leave these air ports open, even partially open, the air actually goes away from your mouth around the outside of the inner tube we call the condenser, slightly inside the tip, has to do a 180-degree turn, which increases the velocity substantially, creates a bit of a pressure drop, and it picks up the vapor that's coming out of the tip, mixes it up, cools it down, and shoots it right through, right into your mouth.
What would you
Wow.
say like are like the health benefits of using a vaporizer versus like smoking a joint
Ah,
or even using other vaporizing devices?
okay. So, uh, from a health perspective, using other vaporizers, there's not going to be a huge difference between using ours and using just about any other reputable vaporizer in the market, as long as it's made with decent quality materials. Uh, in comparison to smoking, there's a massive difference. Uh, and I would first divide that difference into two key categories. Number one is efficiency, and number two is um, flavor and cleanliness, right? So, from the efficiency perspective, it's very common that people, when they shift from combustion to vaporization, and it's kind of regardless whether they use our device or others, although we believe that ours are kind of on the higher end of the spectrum when it comes to efficiency. Uh, it's very common for people to reduce the amount of cannabis that they're consuming per day, per week, per month by about 50%. So, a decent quality vaporizer actually will pay for itself in pretty short order, depending on how much you use per month. Okay. So, yes, they're not cheap, although ours, I think, are at the lower end of the spectrum in terms of entry level cost, especially considering they don't generally break and it could realistically last you your whole life, uh, and could pay for itself in usually 1 to 2 months. Makes for a pretty good investment. Um, so there's the efficiency side of things. On the flavor side of things, we're talking about a whole different world. If you like the way your weed smells, our devices will allow you to taste that with nothing else getting in the way. And that's one of the first things that a person that's never tried a device like this, uh, they just kind of are in shock that first experience because they taste it and you can almost see the whole look on their face just changes to what just happened? What am I tasting? How is it that my weed tastes exactly like it smells? It's like, well, that's the beauty of baking your cookies and not burning them.
Yes. Right. Exactly. And you know what I mean? I think it's much preferred because everybody should take a break every once in a while from it's just a personal opinion, from the combustion portion of it. And it's always a good way for me to, if I don't want to completely stop smoking, to actually utilize those devices. And I know that, we talk about flour, but what I kind of liked about this, and I learned about this at Champs, was that, and I had no idea, by the way, that you could smoke concentrates out of the Dynavap. And I
Yes, you
was
can.
completely blown away by that. Explain to me how that device, how
Okay.
you can smoke concentrate.
So we make a cute little thing that I can't even show very well here because the camera and because the part is so small, but it's called a Dynacoil. Okay. And it is a single piece of titanium coiled up and it'll fit right in the end of this chamber. Okay. It's a really neat piece. You can see it on our website. There's pictures all over the internet. If you simply type in Dynacoil and search images, there'll be some nice close-up pictures that really help show off what it actually is. It's a pretty precision piece of engineered titanium, and what this does is it allows you to take a tiny little bit of concentrate, and it doesn't take much at all. You know what I'm talking about, Rocky? Just a tiny little bit,
Yes.
and you can put it on there, and you can load it up, and you can just leave it sit. and you can go about whatever it is going to do. And when it's time, you just take your preloaded device and you heat it up. Since it's concentrates and like a little bit more temperature, heat the base to go to space with a wonderful taste of whatever your concentrate has to offer.
But with the concentrate, is it the same time? Like you still wait for that click?
And this is a great question, Jarrell. So this is why I like to talk about how you are the control for this device. Okay, and depending on where you heat near the tip or where this groove is. This cap is going to click when your chamber is at a lower temperature. Okay, great if you're just looking for a flavor hit or a real light active hit, right? So if you're one of those people you're just looking to microdose just to kind of get the day started and you don't want to deal with couch lock, heat the tip and for a tasty rip, right?
Yes.
If you're trying to get the concentrates out, heat the base to give it some more temperature, and it'll do exactly what you're looking for. It'll get you a lot more temperature in the chamber by the time that cap clicks, so you have enough heat in there to effectively vaporize all of the good parts of the concentrate. Now, one other thing that's worth noting is just like when you see someone using a dab rig, after they're done, they usually use a swab or something to mop out whatever's left. Okay, because even though it's a concentrate, there's still stuff in there that isn't really of any significant value, right?
Right.
No point in vaping it. Yeah, is it going to make some vapor? Sure. Is it going to taste good? No. Does it have a lot of actives left in it? Not really. It's just a whole bunch of harshness. So your Dynacoil will accumulate that after you put a little concentrate in it and you've heated it up a few times. The beautiful thing is, just like cleaning a lot of your parts for your rig, you can drop them into isopropyl or a cleaning solution. You can just take and pop off your tip, drop off the cap, and you can just drop the whole works right in the cleaning solution and just let it soak for a little bit, rinse it out, and it's good as new. And
Does it dull it out or change the color of the
no,
vap?
not at all. Now, since we're talking about that, don't torch clean it. Okay, it's not a dab rig. Okay, you don't really want to make these parts glow. Okay,
Right.
they're not really designed for that. Yes, you're heating with a lighter, that's fine. If you're going to go past the click, which we don't generally recommend, 1 to 3 seconds for the most part, not going to cause any problems. Once you start going more than about 3 seconds beyond that, well, you're kind of on your own. You've got your speedometer off the scale, if you know what I mean.
Right.
So you can't tell how fast you're going. Uh, can you do it? Yeah. Many people do it successfully, but those people that do it successfully have been driving their car for a long time and kind of know what to expect.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So tell me how you came up with the idea for this little dynamo because I'm going to tell you, I absolutely love it.
All right. Well, it's a fun story that takes me back to hanging out in my basement a few awesome people back in 2012 using the vaporizer that I had the first time, or at that time, which was my first one, a device called an Iolite made by this company in Ireland. The company, their primary focus, they actually make portable soldering irons, okay,
Nice.
that are powered with butane. And so they utilize their expertise. Company's actually name is Portasol, which portable soldering irons, right? So they made this butane-powered vaporizer because one of the people that worked at that company liked cannabis and didn't like smoking it. So I bought one after my neighbor showed it to me and used it for a few months and found it wasn't very efficient. It was wasting a lot of weed. And every time I'd turn it on before it was up to temperature, I'd set it down, let it heat up, go do something. 'Cause it'd take like 5 minutes to warm up, come back, and the whole room would smell like all of my delicious terpenes that were now in the air, fragrancing my room. It's like, all right. And so I'm thinking to myself, there's got to be a better way. I mean, how difficult could it really be to make a vaporizer? And this is when I got up off the couch. I went and grabbed a glass vial and a Bic pen, took apart the pen to make straw, put a little bit of flour in the glass vial, heated it up with a lighter until I started to see a little bit of vapor form, and I just siphoned it off with the straw. I was like, yep, that works. Okay. Now, how do I make this simple enough that anyone can use it successfully? And that began the journey with a whole lot of experimentation and iteration, and has now landed us where we're at, where we make these cute little devices. We also make, you said you got an Omni. We also have, the Vong Eye, which is super fun because we got these interchangeable parts, so you can totally change up the colors. And of course, the Omni, like you
Nice.
said, you've got, Rocky.
Yeah, when I first saw that product, I thought to myself immediately, and it's still something I carry with me, is a one-hitter box because I'm old AF. So I always carry something around like that. And when I first saw your product, it looked like a one-hitter,
Yep.
which I thought was easy because it's convenient. You could carry it. It's kind of discreet, etc. But it made it like super easy for me. So I always thought about that. I was going to talk to you about how that would just, make the dreams come true. And there you go. There you
And it's
have it.
there. And
Yes.
and there's some other fun toys I can share with you. So you don't have to have a lighter to use our devices. Uh, there's induction heaters out there. We've made a few. We got another one in the works. There's a few of these kind of left. This is what we call our Orion.
Have to have items.
And
Yeah, it
so
just goes hand in hand.
this gets us back to what we talked about earlier, where a vaporizer is comprised of your extraction chamber, your energy source, and your control, right? Well, here's our extraction chamber with a nice straw, in the condenser tube like we talked about to cool and condition your vapor. Here's our energy source, or here's another energy source. Use whichever one you want. You can use a Bic lighter, it works just fine. You are the control. Right?
Wow.
Heat the tip for taste, heat the base to go to space, right? Control it however you like. You're in control.
George, I know for the Dynacoil, you said we can just drop it in the ISO to clean it. Is
Yep.
that the same case for the like for the whole thing? Can you just like pull it apart, just drop
Yep.
everything in ISO?
Absolutely. Although we don't generally recommend soaking the cap, okay? Because the thermostats that are inside the cap, there's a couple little discs that are down underneath the crimp in that cap. And so if you soak that in ISO, it's going to soak underneath and you kind of get trapped in there. So the cap generally doesn't get very dirty. About the only time it gets dirty is if when you're using concentrates, if you're heating it with the cap down, sometimes those concentrates can run into the cap. So when you're heating for concentrates, I'm going to recommend that you hold it at a little bit of an upward angle like this. Okay. And that way, if you got a little bit more in there than there should be, it'll run down this way, which is much easier to clean. And so then you can clean your cap with a swab and a little bit of alcohol. The rest of the parts are fine to soak in alcohol. You don't even have to take the O-rings off. The O-rings handle alcohol just fine.
Yep, that was
Cool,
going to be my
simple.
next question about the O-rings. Yep. So I didn't even know that you can pull the centerpiece out at all. So that's a first for me. We'll be doing that as soon as we exit off of
Okay.
this podcast. I'm just gonna
So
play with my toys.
there's even more fun that I can share with you. So the goal when designing this product was to make it as simple to use as possible and multifunctional. Okay, so this digger outer is one of my favorite things because for those of you using flour, it goes right in here like this, and it very effectively digs out whatever's left if you can't just pop it out, which works most of the time. I use that digger outer to pop out my condenser as well, and I can use my condenser to take the little CCD or the screen that's in the tip, and I can pop that out if I want to remove it and clean it.
Wow.
And then I can drop
think
that
you guys
right
took
back in.
You guys took efficiency to another level because like every piece serves a purpose. It's just incredible.
Yeah, simple like that, right? And I just think it's nice that you don't need tools to service your device. It's
Yes.
right there.
It's self-contained, and with just a little bit of care, the goal was to create a tool that could last a lifetime. And we've been doing this now for a little over 6 years, And the feedback that we've received from the few customers that we had back in those early days is that, oh yeah, that one I got back from you in 2016, it still works fine. In fact, I haven't even had to replace an O-ring yet. A few people have torn up their O-rings because they didn't lubricate them, or they were taking them off because they weren't sure if they could soak them or not. A few people have damaged caps because they've way overheated them. That happens if you don't make sure you get that reset click. So really, really important. If you haven't heard the reset click, if anything, just give it another 10 or 15 seconds, or tap your finger on the end until it's, not hot, kind of cool to the touch, room temperature. Then you know for sure you haven't missed it and it's reset. So if you can just wait an extra 15 seconds, if you're not sure you've heard it, then your cap is going to last you a long, long time. If you miss it, you just keep torching and torching, it'll combust.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but if I remember right, when I was at Champs and one of the guys did a demonstration for me, he said like you can put like the you can put it on this like the lighter part and it helps it cool down a little bit faster or something like that.
Yep. And that's why we put the magnets on the Dynastash, right? Having that magnet there, it's kind of nice because that magnet helps pull the heat out. And if you adjust your cap right, you can actually use the magnet to pull the cap right off. And then it clicks a lot louder. And when the cap is off the tip, it cools off much faster.
Nice. Are every single part of that item sold on your website? So if I'm, let's say I bought mine a few months ago and I'm just a derelict of dialect and I just don't do the right things ever, and I needed to buy O-rings, would I be able to find those on your website?
So the real exceptions to parts is we make sometimes some colored parts and some short run variants. And when those are sold out, we don't have anymore. But you need a tip? No problem. Got tips in stock. You need a new stem? No problem, because you lost it or your dog ate it or whatever it might be. You stepped on your cap or backed over it with your car, or you made it glow and now it doesn't work very good. Yes. Every part that you need to keep your device functional long term is on our website.
That's amazing. That's so important. How many times have you gotten something from a smoke shop and then you just have to just buy a whole new piece to replace because the small pieces you can't find, which is fantastic. So when he said it's a lifetime item, I'm going to tell you that I've had mine for 4 years and literally I haven't had to change. I didn't even know that part came out. I would just kind of clean it with, you know what I mean, with a toothpick. You know what I mean? I had no idea. But that goes to show you that it's a wonderful item to have. So if I'm sitting there and I'm like one of the people that are listening to this podcast right now, and I'm like, well, where do I start? Where do I begin? What's the training wheels of Dynavap?
Okay. Well, there's many, many videos. We've got them on our website, as well as quite a few other people out there in what I would call the community have made videos of their own to kind of show how to use it. So I would just start by watching a few videos and just maybe surfing around a little bit in, you can check out our Reddit community, for example. So, r/Dynavap. Hang out with the people over there. There's a decent number of people hanging out in that community, and they're also very, very helpful. I think that's probably the best place to start. Oh, and there's one other thing I wanted to make sure I share with you before we finish up. So let me know before we're done, because I think it'll really make you grin.
Go for it.
Yeah, let's see it. Chill
bong,
yeah.
Right? Super cool. 14 millimeter taper like most bongs have. Well, the Vong fits in the bong native.
Wow.
Just gonna have to have it now.
Yeah.
Just gonna have to have it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it actually gets one step better. Okay. So one more second.
Oh my gosh, kid in the candy store right now. Dude, you know that as soon as we're done with this, I'm gonna go and pick up my bong and
Add
my
to
chill
cart.
bong.
So I've got this little rig, right? The Vong actually has a multi-function mouthpiece on it, where this part here with our logo on it is actually a 14 millimeter taper, but the tip is actually a 10 millimeter taper that will fit
Oh
any of
wow.
your 10 millimeter glass. And if that's an M I saw that you had, Jarrell, I think it was a 2020, it looked like. Uh, nope, that's a 21. Perfect. That also has a 10
Get
millimeter
out of
taper on it.
here. I'm
Did
about to
you
grab.
know that?
Hell no. I'm about to grab it now. Where's
Well,
my yes?
I know I was going to be so
Oh.
excited about a podcast.
You wasn't lying, George. I'm glad you did that.
well, we seriously, this is our passion. Okay, do we make these things to sell them? Sure, we do. Okay, but we take the resources that the community contributes to our company when they buy our product, and it gets reinvested into research and development, which might sound kind of funny to some people out there, but I can tell you, you don't end up with a product like this without some R&D.
Yeah.
And we put some real effort and some real passion into design, development, and also probably worth mentioning that we manufacture our devices on our CNC equipment in our shop, which is literally on the other side of the wall from where I'm sitting. In fact, if you listen real carefully, you can actually hear them cutting parts right now.
Wow. That's amazing. No, it looks like you're working in a very large warehouse, my friend. From the short portion I've worked in warehouses, so yeah, I'm super impressed with all of the things above and beyond like what I thought, to be honest, because I was like, I've spoken to many of people at different expos for Dynavap, and I thought that I had it nailed, but I had no idea. So when you talk about like a multifaceted device in such a, you can either have it compact, you could smoke it, do dabs with it. You can actually smoke the flower in your favorite dab rig or in a flower, you know what I mean, bong, whatever the case may be. They even offer, and I've seen them too, the little plastic guys, the little rubber guys that go into the uh, dab rigs where you can, if you have a larger chamber, something
Yep.
like that. I've seen it so many different ways, but this was a complete eye opener. I am floored. Let me tell you.
Cool. That's the
Yes.
goal.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Yes,
I am so impressed. Let me
George.
ask you this, my friend George.
What you got?
How did you start on your journey with cannabis? We have to ask that question before
Okay,
we let
that's
you
fine.
go.
So, um, I think I would qualify as a bit of a late bloomer. Um, and that's because I actually did a few years in the military, after high school, and I didn't want to take any unnecessary risks and cause any problems there. But after I got out of the military, I said to one of my friends from high school, I was like, hey, now that I don't have to worry about getting drug tested, uh, I sure would like to try some weed because I've heard it's kind of fun. And so we made arrangements, and uh, we went over to someone else's house, and I can remember getting all ready to go, and I got myself a box of Little Debbie Cosmic Brownies, and we got there, and they lit up a joint. I was like, okay, here we go. And I had a couple of puffs. I was like, man, wow, that's harsh. Oh, 'cause I can remember when first, smelling the smoke, and the smoke smells pretty nice, but if you're not accustomed to it, the flavor is pretty strong, and the smoke's kind of harsh. And
Yeah.
then things started to kick in for me, and the fun really began. But from there on, every time I would smoke it, the harshness uh, really kind of got to me, and so I was a person that pretty much the only way that I would ever consume cannabis up until 2012 was through water to kind of cool and condition it a little bit. So I used to actually make some of my own glass pieces just because I didn't want to buy them. I was like, I can do that. So I was making, bubblers out of various bottles, whiskey bottles and other things along those lines. And I always kind of had my eye open through the vase section at Target.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Smart.
Yeah.
Smart. That's awesome.
So
Now, now go ahead.
go ahead. No, I was just saying that's a big part of my journey. Is always looking for a better way.
Yep.
I think that's needed in the industry, or we need people who's always looking for a better way in the industry, because they give us cool devices like this. But George, we appreciate you, bro. You fucking killed it. You gave us a few awesome lessons. Like, man, I appreciate you, bro. But before we get you out of here, we have to know what you've been smoking on lately.
Oh, I've got some pretty nice stuff that the folks from Herb Saver, if you know them, hooked me up with
Yep.
some aeroponic wedding cake. Uh, that was
Ooh.
pretty nice.
Hey, are you more of a flower guy or concentrates or vapes?
Well, I tend to lean a little bit more towards flour, and a big part of that is, and you might even see a little bit of this illustrated in some of our devices. I tend to be on the microdose side of the spectrum. And that's another thing that's probably worth, if we got just another minute or two, worth illustrating is our devices, even the M, the one that you have, Drell, will do this as well. If I take and pop the tip off again and pop the condenser out, uh, what I'm going to do is try and show here if we can see about how deep that screen is. Okay, about
Yep.
10 millimeters deep, right? I can take my condenser, and if I put my finger over the end and I push real carefully and real slowly, I mean real slow, until I kind of feel it go dink. There it goes. I can actually push my screen up and reduce my chamber size by about 50%. There's a there's a tiny little groove, but you don't even necessarily have to hit the groove. If you just push up slowly, you want to keep that screen kind of domed up so that when you're loading your flour, it resists it and it stays in place. So it makes for a really, really nice option for those people that are just microdosing very, very tiny amounts of flour. And that's the category that I fit into. So a little bit of high quality premium flour does me real nice.
I
George,
think
you
this is
thought about everything.
Yeah, I think it's awesome for like new consumers as well.
Well, it's super important, I think, for people that are just kind of getting introduced to cannabis, for soccer moms, etc., that still need to be capable of getting some of their other roles and responsibilities taken care of. Well, you don't need couch lock all the time.
Yep.
And so if you can put in a tiny little bit, and our chamber at the half position generally holds about 0.03 to 0.05 grams. So it's truly a microdose. That means you're going to be able to get 20 to 30 loadings off of a single gram of cannabis.
Wow.
Okay. And
Yeah, and it'll help people like me who smoke too much not smoke as much.
well, it's fun that you say it that way, Rocky, because uh, it's probably worth taking just a minute or two to talk about the power of ritual. Okay. Smoking has a whole lot of ritual associated with it. Okay. Because you think about it, oh, I'm going to have a smoke, right? You don't just, and you're done, right?
Right.
You're going to sit down, you're going to open up your bag or your pouch or your kit or whatever and start taking your things out. Maybe you're going to grind, get your rolling papers. Maybe if you're in Europe, you mix a little bit of tobacco in and you get it all ready to go,
Right.
or you're getting your bong or your water piece or your rig. It's a whole process. Okay.
Yes.
And every step along the way of this process, there's some really interesting things that are happening in your head from a neurotransmitter perspective in terms of the preparation for the release of dopamine and serotonin and all these other things that is happening because of the anticipation of what you're about to do and what you're about to experience and what's going to happen afterwards. Okay. So, where I'm going with that is when you use a device like this that has a very small chamber and you go through this whole process and you heat it up to the click and you take a couple puffs and you let it cool off and then you reheat it again, you're kind of drawing out a little bit more time. You're keeping your hands busy, you're keeping your mind engaged for those active compounds to take effect. And what I find is that when I go through this process and I kind of take my time and I keep a little bit of dialogue going with people, all of a sudden they find that, you know what? I'm good. I don't need any more. And it's one of the other secondary things that happens when people utilize our product is it's not just that there's the efficiency gain from vaporizing versus combustion. There's the consumption reduction that happens by respecting the ritual and not rushing the process. That you allow the process and you allow those active compounds to do their part, and you allow yourself to kind of come up to speed slowly, and you come to the realization, you know what? Yeah, I'm good. I don't need any more. And then you go about your business.
Yeah.
And so, no joke, I get this feedback from our customers that after they buy our product, their tolerance starts to drop. And they're still as high as they want to be.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's an amazing thing.
Isn't that
Especially,
fun?
yeah. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Especially for someone that's been smoking a decade plus, That's amazing. Yeah, I'm gonna remember that for sure.
Well, and you can really amplify that impact if you can get yourself to take, say a 2 or 3 day tea break. And as you're coming off your tea break, use the product exclusively just for a few days and allow that ritual to kind of progress. Respect the ritual, take your time, and you'll find that it doesn't take nearly as much as you think it might to get to where you want to be. And then your tolerance will continue to decline. And you're going to find that, wow, I have all of this selection of various different flowers or concentrates, and I'm just not running out. If anything, I need to find more people to come over so I can share it before it gets old.
That's a good problem to have.
Yes.
Oh, it's the best problem.
Yeah. What you been smoking on, Rocky?
I have been smoking on flower from the Real McCoy. I really enjoy it. They have some really great strains. So whatever y'all are doing up there, keep up the good work because it's a good job. How about you, Jerome?
I got a chance to sample some Kush Minch from Lit.
How was
Pretty
that?
good. Yeah, pretty good, man. I like them.
Did
They
you smoke it today? Was that what you smoked before you?
yeah, I
Okay,
sampled that
because
this morning.
you look lit, and I love that. So guess what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna buy that.
Nice.
Oh my God, I have to buy so many things now. George has me going on to the Dynavap website as soon as we get off of this situation here so I can get some other items. And yeah, dude, I'm gonna have to pick up some lit. Listen, George, if anybody wants to do the same thing I'm gonna do and they want to purchase these items, what's the best way to do that?
Oh, probably the best way is Dynavap.com. Or if you happen to be in Europe, we also have a European website where we stock our inventory in Amsterdam because it's Amsterdam, right?
Yes, because why not?
We can get it to you there. We can get it to you faster and with lower tax and duty because we actually have stock right there in Amsterdam. So that's Dynavap.eu. And if you don't want to buy online, we have our stuff in stock in quite a few stores around the world, which you can find on our website using the store locator.
Oh, the new folks have options. So don't tell me you couldn't find it. Don't send me any kind of messages, but let's talk about it. When you do try that for the first time, go ahead and hit us up at www.highbudtenders.com in the comment section at the very bottom. Let me know what you thought about that. If you purchased one, what did you think? Did you have a great experience? Because I know I have. I've had mine for a while. So always check that out. We are at www.highbudtenders.com/podcast to listen to the podcast, /shop to shop any of our wonderful merchandise items. We thank you folks for listening to the podcast. We love you. And as always, stay high, bud tenders.
Fucking make it, I'm saying. I said I love my city, but I don't think you hear me though. I said I love my city.